Greetings, everybody. Deborah Bishop for Conscious Nashville, and it is, of course, my distinct pleasure to introduce you to another member of our community. It was my great pleasure to introduce and interview this woman, as she has been in my circle for a long time, actually. I know her as a visual artist, also a teacher and healer, and I'm excited to introduce you to her today because she has recently completed a book. And so, Juliana, thank you so much for being here with us today. We so appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm very excited for you. I know you've been a member to be reckoned with in our healing community for quite a while here in Nashville. And
17 years.
And people know many sides of you. I think also some people are aware you're a visual artist.
Yes.
And now you are an author.
Yes, and it's so funny because with my limitations, I have ADD. I mean, I have trouble reading books. So for me to have written a book is really interesting. But I've had so many clients over the years who have had these amazing circumstances, and over again they kept happening because of this forgiveness process that I have my clients do. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and write down what I hear. And at the beginning, I was just going to keep them as records in the files, and then I started putting them together. And I thought, okay, I think I have a book here. Would you like to hear the story I started with?
I would love to hear. I love the title.
Oh yeah, the title is The Other F Word, 7 Days to Forgiving Anyone. So it literally does take a week, and it can be anyone. Especially, people need a little help to get off of who they're angry at. It could be a thing or a group. I mean, I even had a few years ago, I forgave a party, a political party that was irritating me. Every time the car would go by, I would see this sign on the car, and it would irritate me. And I thought, okay, anything that interrupts my peace, I want to deal with. So I did a forgiveness process on that political party, and so I was able to let that go. It's nice. Anyway, so back to the process. Why I called it that. Most people have one main person, like the Disappearance of the Universe. I love that book. And he was talking about that there's one main person that he believes that Gary Bernard was saying that there's one main person that we all have to forgive in our lifetime. And I've noticed that. There's usually one core person. It may be our mother, our father, or in my line of work, dealing with birth and prenatal psychology, it's the first person outside of us that did something to us or for us without our permission, really. Mm-hmm. So sometimes people have a thing about that, and it's helpful. I have a whole chapter about that in this book, about forgiving authority figures based on this one concept. Because if people don't get over that, if they still hold resentment against that original authority figure, it's hard for them to have jobs, interact with people, maybe even if they're, they have an anger for all types of reasons, and they don't know why. But especially authority figure, the IRS, the government, police, those are authority figures, and also our bosses. So forgiving our obstetrician can help that immensely. I have tons of examples on that, how people have turned that around. I suggest for people to forgive themselves first so that they can see how many changes can happen in their life. And then after that, then to do their mother, not necessarily in this order, but the biggies, the big ones that most people are extensions of from our early beginnings. So we'd forgive ourselves, our mother, father, siblings, our obstetrician, and even God or religion. There's so many people that I have who are from a certain type of religion that may stress guilt as part of the I'm not.
There's a lot of people really disillusioned.
You know what I mean?
With their faith. Yes.
And I'm not saying that these aren't great religions. They don't do a lot of good for people, but I just have seen over and over again in some of these religions that guilt is so pervasive that they can't get past that. And so.
And then they have no religious or spiritual life at all.
Right. And so what is that doing to their life? It's sucking the joy that they could have. So when they forgive the religion or God or whatever part of that process they want to do, and they let go and they see the blessing in it, their whole life opens up. I mean, it does. It's like they're on a whole different dimension, because life is completely different after that. When they see that it has nothing to do, it's all of their perception, and when they let go of that, then everything is different. So it is almost like you're on another dimension, because everything's different. So, mother, father, all right, I listed those. So how is it done? How is it different than other forgiveness processes? It's different in that it takes a week. And you say, how could it possibly take a week? Well, first of all, the hardest part is willingness. And that's once people will agree to do it. That little mustard seed is in the biblical reference that they talk about, the willingness of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. Literally. That little bit of willingness, the size of a mustard seed, the size of a dot on an eye on a page, that much willingness, the rest is divine intervention. It's, I won't
Let
go
me
into the
ask you a
parts
question
here.
regarding willingness, right? Because I deal with this with my clients too, is willpower, which is something they think they can just muscle their way through, and it doesn't work because willpower runs out. How would your distinction be between willingness and willpower?
It's a great question. Very good. Nobody's ever asked me that. It's a great question. Willpower is where you take, you muster up, whether you believe it or not, whether you want or not, you pull up every bit of that you can get together, and you do it. You kind of force yourself to do it, but your desire and your essence is not necessarily behind it. Willingness is where you surrender to the process, and when you surrender, you let go your limitations, and that willingness is much bigger than what you can even decide, because you know what I mean? Willingness is just opening up and allowing yourself to be poured out, and but to be trusting of where you are going, or the process. I love it. Trust the process of life. Louise Hay talks about it. I just love that statement. But that willingness is allowing yourself to be undone, allowing yourself to be poured out, allowing yourself to be molded into something new. But it's allowing. It's the art of allowing. Willingness. Yeah. So that's my version of it.
So that's the first step, is that willingness has to be there.
Absolutely. So I, on one-on-one, my main goal with clients is to get them to trust me, to encourage them to trust me, because once they trust me, they're much more likely to be willing to go the next step. And in my book, I spent quite a bit of time at the beginning giving them reasons why their willingness would behoove them, why their willingness would make their life better, make their physical body better, because so many people will hold on to the resentment and anger even years after the person may be dead, and they're still angry at somebody that did something 25-30 years ago.
Right.
So who wins there? There's only loss, because the person isn't even there to argue with. And so I love that. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be